But right now, I want to welcome to the program President of the Government Accountability Institute, Mr. Peter Schweizer. And Mr. Schweizer, thank you so much for your time tonight, sir.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Big story in Newsweek this week, and I got to say I was a little surprised to see this in Newsweek, talking about the Department of Justice, Eric Holder, and how the DOJ is handling corruption on Wall Street. Basically, the question is, where is this crackdown that President Obama was talking about, right?
Well, that's right. In early 2009, when he was inaugurated, Eric Holder was his attorney general. They said that they were going to aggressively, investigate allegations of criminal conduct in Wall Street as it related to the financial crisis. Well, we never got that. And I think the reason is that you have in the Department of Justice, at the most senior level, some very, very serious conflicts of interest, or at minimum, the strong appearance of conflicts of interest. And I think it's affecting the prosecution of justice in this case.
All right, when you talk about the appearance of a conflict of interest or these conflicts of interest, does this come from where these DOJ officials were hired from? Do they come from a lot of these big Wall Street firms?
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. Usually when presidents of either party pick the leadership of the Department of Justice, they're a mix of prosecutors, or in the case of George W. Bush, a senator. They come from sort of a wide variety of backgrounds. What you have at the Eric Holder Justice Department is from Eric Holder on down to the top 5 people at Justice. They all come from law firms where they did an enormous amount of business with these very same firms on Wall Street that they are now supposed to be investigating and possibly prosecuting. And everybody assumes, I think rightfully so, that most of them, when they leave government service, are going to return to these very same firms. And so it creates a huge conflict of interest because, let's face it, what is in their financial interest? It's in their financial interest not to prosecute Wall Street and to not rock the boat, so when they return, they can pick up where they left off.
All right, and so what's DOJ's response to these allegations?
Well, their response is, we are investigating this. We are looking at it. The statistics don't lie, however. I mean, this Justice Department has, agree or disagree, has been very aggressive in civil rights prosecutions. They've been very aggressive in Medicare fraud prosecutions. There's one exception, and that is prosecutions for financial fraud are literally at 20-year lows. And this comes in the shadow of this massive financial crisis when there's been a lot of serious allegations about financial fraud taking place. And so that's what I think is so disconcerting. The numbers pretty much speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's fascinating here because, we've been covering the DOJ largely from the Fast and Furious
Right.
angle. And what's interesting to me is that there are some similarities there. Prosecutions for felon in possession are actually at 20-year lows under the Obama administration. And yet, we keep hearing from DOJ and from the administration, they've implemented new rules for federally licensed firearms retailers in border states, and yet the actual prosecution of those who are illegally obtaining and illegally carrying firearms at again, decade, 20, 30-year lows here. So, what is going on? Is this really just is this something that's not important to the administration, paying lip service to the idea of going after and prosecuting this financial fraud, but really not wanting to upset the donors and the network that is close to the administration?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, ultimately, we can't look into their heads and know. But one thing I would say, whether it's both Fast and Furious and this issue, this is, by any objective standard, a Department of Justice that is more political than any other. And I say that by simply stating the facts that in this administration, of the top 5 slots, 4 of the people who took those positions early on in the Obama administration, including Eric Holder, were campaign bundlers for President Obama. It's unprecedented to have the top law enforcement officer and his senior deputies actually be political fundraisers for the president. Traditionally, sure, they want somebody to come into that slot that shares their judicial philosophy, but they don't tend to pick people that are very political and that are out raising money for them. And that, I think, is part of the reason you're seeing these sorts of prosecution patterns or non-prosecution patterns in the Holder Department of Justice.
Now, I got to say, Peter, I think this is an incredibly important story, and I want everybody to read this story. And you're even featured on the cover of Newsweek, but unfortunately, there's a fat baby with fries that apparently is a little bit more important. Why should people care about this story as opposed to the fat baby with fries?
Well, people should care because this is the justice system, and people are familiar or may be familiar with the phrase crony capitalism. This is really a crony judicial system increasingly, where justice is going to be meted out depending on political connections or on a political agenda, and that's very, very troubling. And I think it should trouble all of us because it goes to the very integrity of the republic. I mean, we are supposed to be what? A country of laws, not a country of men. And that, I think, unfortunately, is increasingly at risk.
What do you think, Peter, about the media environment that we're in right now, where, a story like this it doesn't seem to get as much play as, Mitt Romney's high school experience or Barack Obama's, playground bullying in middle school? It seems like every day we have these sort of distraction stories that don't really impact you and they don't really impact me. And yet, these stories that really do impact us and our lives in the institutions that we deal with, it seems like a lot of times it's very difficult for stories like this to actually break out and become something that everybody is talking about.
No, that's a great point. It's so interesting because a lot of people in the mainstream media, when you talk to them, they will say, well, the American people really aren't interested in those things. The American people, don't want that kind of depth. They're interested in more superficial things. Actually, I think that attitude reflects more the attitude of people in the media than it does the American people. In this case, Newsweek was very supportive of this piece, and they actually got enormous traffic on the website. We were linked by Matt Drudge and other people.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, a lot of people are interested in these stories. They do care.
Yep.
And I think we just need to, through outlets like yours and others, we need to continue to let people know what material is out there, and they will, they'll vote with their mouse on the computer, or they'll vote with their feet in the sort of things that they read or the television programming they listen to. Because I really do find that when I am not in the Beltway, which is most of the time, people are very much concerned about issues, whether it's Fast and Furious, whether it's Second Amendment rights, or whether it's this issue of Wall Street and prosecution. So we need to continue to just spread the word, and I think it's part of the reason some media outlets, are frankly losing so much money.
I think you're right, Peter. And listen, I really appreciate you coming on the program, sir. I would love to have you back. The Government Accountability Institute, what's the website for your organization?
Well, the Institute has just started, so we do not have the website up yet. But I do have a personal website, peterschweizer.com, and we will have a website up shortly. And I appreciate all the things that you guys do, and I'm glad to come on anytime.
Well, thank you so much. Great talking to you this evening, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Thanks so much.